Hello and welcome. This is the first of maybe a bunch of videos, if I still feel like it after a while, which is going through my stem cell transplant. This is partially for friends and family who want updates, and partially just for people out there who are going through similar stuff and want to know what happens, because it's all quite terrifying. So this first video is just about the diagnosis really and how I got here. I am now admitted into hospital finally, and it's happening within the next couple of weeks. So this is about my diagnosis really. I think maybe everyone's a bit of an odd case, but I'm a bit of an odd case. I had probably autoimmune disease, connective tissue disorder for years. I had mild anemia in 2019, so nearly 6 years ago, and I was given steroids for that and it seemed to work. So it was assumed that I had some sort of connective tissue disorder, maybe even lupus. I had the complement for lupus with a sort of hematological input of that lupus. And so I've ticked along mildly anemic for years since then, nothing that caused any great issues. But then the start of this year, everything kind of started to go a bit wrong. I went to the doctors with pulsatile tinnitus, so I could just hear my heart thumping in my head all the time. I was given an MRI, and they said that there was something visible at the base of my spine, of my skull, but that it was probably to do with the, at the time, semi-mild anemia that I was dealing with. But then I was starting to get really bad bruising. My legs looked awful. People on holiday said that they thought I'd been in a car crash, which was fun, and obviously looked pretty hot. So then we started to have kind of more tests, and then everything went wrong, and in April my hemoglobin tanked to about 65. I was incredibly out of breath, felt awful going upstairs. It was awful. At the same time my white blood cells were low, my platelets were low. I had a few emergency transfusions at that time to get my HB up a little bit, put on mycophenolate and steroids, still kind of assuming it was an autoimmune thing at that point. But they also did a bone marrow biopsy to check if there was anything more nefarious going on. They'd always assumed it wasn't anything like leukemia because my white blood cells were so low, which is true. I don't blame anyone for if it was this earlier, which is MDS by the way, because the steroids had worked before, so at some point it merged to this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So I was put on mycophenolate and everything else, but they gave me a bone marrow biopsy, of which I'll do another video about because I know it scares people. And they found mild dysplasia. Dysplasia is what she described to me as scruffy blood cells. They're a bit off and a bit messy. And so it was sent for genetic testing to make sure that I didn't have myelodysplastic syndrome, or MDS. She said I had about a 15% chance of having it because I'm quite young. I'm 40. And so I had about a 6-week wait for that, which wasn't fun. In the meantime, I was having transfusions to keep my hemoglobin up. And then the test came back and I did indeed have a myelodysplastic syndrome. So I had the mutations RUNX1 and it's RUNX1, AXL1, ASXL1, SRSF2, and IKZF1. So they're deemed quite high risk, and so I was deemed to have high risk MDS. It was going to turn into leukemia in probably the next 18 months. But luckily at that point they caught it with 3% blasts, so that's the kind of the blasts, cancer blast, which meant that they wanted to get me to transplant as soon as possible. So that was in June, which was about 6 months ago. So that was diagnosis. And I'll do some more videos about the biopsy and the search for donors and that kind of stuff soon. Bye!